you know, preferably the permanent kinds. Like, for example, easy proxies. Easy proxies, you can buy proxies, and they don't get replaced every 30 days like they do from buy proxies. Okay, so you can buy proxies from easy proxies and add those proxies to the submitter, and so that every single time that the submitter runs, it's running through the same set of proxies. Okay, and that way that will prevent. And if you ask easy proxies support when you go to purchase the proxies, you can ask them to send you like 5 proxies from the same city. So like the same U.S. city, you could say that, and that way all 5 proxies are in the same city, and it will not, the submitter won't cause you any problems at that point. You can do that. All you need to do is ask support for that, okay, and from proxies, the proxy support. All right. So just keep that in mind. A few times when I post to my IFTTT, there's no post in the RSS feed of Instapaper, but when I log in, if it's in their system read section, it's in the system in the read section. I realize that RSS feed is only for the unread stuff. I'm wondering how do I post such that I get it in the unread section where it'll show in the RSS feed, because I guess that's where we want it for future meshing of feeds. Yes, and I kind of addressed this yesterday in Hump Day Hangouts. Your time is better spent working on building additional networks than it is monitoring every post that you submit to your network to make sure that it's posted to every syndication site. To me, that is just a massive time suck, waste of time. When you're dealing with that many properties, and again, I addressed this yesterday, so I'm going to keep this brief, but when you're dealing with that many properties, there are going to be times that things don't work 100%. That happens. It happens a lot. But that's part of the reason why we use so many properties, is so that it doesn't have as much of an impact. Now, specifically, I have not had a chance to log into my Instapaper to see if I'm seeing the same problem. So, Jonathan, I will look at that, but what I would tell you, my best suggestion is to let it go and move on, because even if only 1 out of every 3 posts are making it, that's still better than nothing. And to be honest with you, if you're spending the time monitoring that and double-checking all of your posts, imagine if you were to just take a count of the time that you spend monitoring that stuff, I think it would amaze you over the course of 3 or 4 days how much time you've actually spent looking at that kind of stuff that could have been spent doing more SEO activities. Now, again, certainly we want these networks to work as much as possible, but sometimes the Web 2.0 sites themselves will just have hiccups. There will be problems where they just might not function properly for a few days, and then they'll fix themselves. And no matter how much time you spend monitoring it and playing around with it, and trust me, the only reason I'm telling you this is because I've been doing IFTTT networks for 2.5 years, and I have spent an enormous amount of time trying to get the networks to work 100% of the time, all the time, and it rarely happens. And if I could go back and recover all that time by just letting it go and moving on, I'd have another 200 or 300 networks working for me right now. You know what I mean? I could have invested that time in a better, used my time more efficiently than monitoring all that. So just to let you know, I have not had a chance to look into that to see if I'm seeing the same issue. But honestly, I really don't care that much about it, because the Instapaper properties are only really valuable when you use the advanced RSS function. Right, so that's part of the IFTTT training, is the Advanced RSS Academy. If you set that up, that's where Instapaper really has any juice to begin with. Okay, Instapaper for the IFTTT networks alone has some value, but not as much as it does for when you set up the RSS, the RSS syndication network. Okay. So that, again, I'll take a look at it when I get time, but honestly, I would not worry about it. Just move on. If everything else is working, don't worry about it. And even if everything else isn't working, just move on. If it's something that I do find is a problem, I'll talk about it with another. I'll make sure I record a video as to what could be changed, and it might just be something small. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, Adam or Marco, please just jump in and let me know. I wanted to get.
Okay, no problem.
I wanted to get that out of the way because this SociSynd stuff is driving me crazy. Just because it seems to keep coming up and up and up. So there's one more question about that I'm going to cover, and then that's going to be it for that for now. Just an update to my question on SociSynd. I figured out how to use 3 sets. Just enable the proxy, even if you don't use a proxy in the submitter. Well, that's great. I'm glad you figured that out. Again, I would suggest that you do use proxies all from the same city. That will prevent, it will not prevent, but it will reduce the amount of times that your accounts get logged. My problem is that I have problems with these accounts. Facebook, Folked, FriendFeed, Google+, Google Sites, Pinterest, and Sonico. The rest seem to work fine, but none have been posted for this. What do you do when we encounter this? Okay, Folked, don't use it. Number one, don't use Folked, because Folked will only give you a free account for like 14 days, and then you have to upgrade, and because you have to pay after like 14 days, or you can't post to it anyways. So don't use Folked. I know I've gone over this before. As a matter of fact, I think you had, see, I've got Folked here, but it doesn't post to it anymore either. Folked is one of those things that just, it used to be a free bookmarking site, but they've changed, and it's like after 14 days or something, I don't know the exact numbers, but you can't post to it anymore. So don't worry about Folked, okay? I would, in fact, if we go back and look at my, these are the, if we look at these connections, let's see. Well, that's still got it there too, but it doesn't post to them, so I just don't care. I don't even worry about it. Again, there's so many other properties there, it really doesn't make a difference. FriendFeed, I'm not sure why you're having trouble there. I couldn't really tell you because I haven't really had any. Facebook, excuse me. Facebook, I've always have trouble with Facebook. I think out of all of my SociSynd accounts, I only have Facebook on 2 of them. And that's it, because they always get locked out. Because exactly what you said about the IP addresses, that's what happens with the Facebook. And since they're fake accounts to begin with, they tell you that they want you to confirm your friends by, identifying some of your friends on Facebook, their faces and stuff like that. And I just gave up on Facebook with SociSynd. I just don't use it. That's also part of the reason we don't talk about Facebook much in the IFTTT networks, because the only way to truly use Facebook in an automated fashion is to set up pages under your own account. Okay, so I eliminate Facebook, eliminate Folked. That's 2 of the problems right there. FriendFeed, not sure about that. Google+, if you've set up Google+ through Buffer, then it should be posting to Buffer, and Buffer is what actually posts to Google+. Also, make sure that you've set the account permissions. Remember how we talked about that in the IFTTT network training? How you go in and you set third-party app permissions? You want to do that, because otherwise it won't post to Google+. Google itself will be blocking third-party apps, which would be Buffer in that case. Google Sites, I haven't really had issues with that. All my Google Sites post properly. Pinterest, I don't really use Pinterest. I think I might have Pinterest attached to these, but I've never even tracked to see if it's working. Again, I really just don't really use Pinterest much. It's not that it's not valuable, I just don't use it. And Sonico, I've been having nothing but problems with too, so I've got those disabled as well. And when you have that many connections available, again, I don't really care. It's not that big of a... Obviously, we want to try to make them work if we can, but how much time do you spend on trying to get them to work? Could that time be spent better somewhere else? And once again, I would direct you to, once you're able to get access to the support forum, you can ask them there. If you feel like spending more time on it, maybe they can help you get that set up properly. Okay. All right. So I've spent enough time on that. I'm going to move on to link building strategy for new sites. This is something that this was Scott's question, and I wanted to get to this because that is a very valid question. Link building strategy for new sites. Now, I was going to try to have a type checklist on a Google Doc for you guys today on what it is that I typically do, and so you guys are going to see me wing it right now because I did not have that prepared, again, because of what happened with the JVZoo stuff, so I apologize for that. Let me start a new doc here, and you guys will see me wing it. However, I'm probably going to want to edit this to give you a more final draft version of it after the webinar when I have some time to commit to it. But I can give you an off-the-cuff strategy right now as to what I normally do. So I'm going to call this link building strategy for new sites. And by the way, just because all of you that are on here that have questions, I want you all to understand that I'm going to get to every one of them. Link building strategy for new sites is what we're doing now, and in Weebly's, which is part of Scott's question, which, by the way, Weebly's are a fantastic. I use Weebly's in every single one of my link building campaigns, every one of them. So we're going to talk about that now and how important that is and why they're so good to use. And we're going to talk about Glenn's question with Web 2.0 DA stacking. Once again, that if you, I'll read his question when we get to that, and it's quite amazing. He's got a lot of properties that he wants to stack properly, so we're going to talk about that too. Silo structure, simple and complex. That's a question that Jeff Mountain asked, who I don't think he's actually here today, but he says he's going to catch the replay. And besides, this is a question that gets asked a lot about silo structures. I know Jonathan's asked about this many, many times in the past, and I think this will benefit both Sherman and also Jonty. Jonty will also get a lot of benefit out of that. And then local site audit, that's for Sherman. We're going to take a look at that, Sherman, and look at backlinks and things like that to give you some idea. And then we're going to talk about the startup plan for Jonty, and then we'll take any additional Q&A and also you guys can interrupt along the way. That's fine. So you got a new site. You've got the site built. There's content on it. You've probably got it siloed. If you know, Scott, I know you. You know enough to know how to silo a site. So if you've got that done properly, all we're talking about right now is off-page. Okay, so we're going to talk about that first. Maybe we should have done the silo structure first. Maybe that would have made more sense, but we're going to talk about this anyways. What I typically do is, number one, before you do anything, once the site is built, this is all assuming that the site has been built and there's initial seed content on it, right? It's been indexed, that sort of thing. But the very first thing, right? This is the first thing I do for any kind of off-page SEO. And let me go ahead and blow this up, guys, make it a little bit bigger. You guys are still seeing everything okay, right?
Looking good.
Okay. IFTTT network, number one. If it's a brand new website, make a branded network, right? So you brand, the site has a name, right? The site has a brand, whether it's a local business, it could be a lead gen site, which is a generic brand typically. But by the way, guys, if you're doing lead gen stuff, do not go with just exact match domains anymore, and don't go with, like, for example, you know, I've done a ton of tree service stuff, right? That's where most of my lead gen properties are, in the tree service industry. And I started that 5 years ago, I guess, and a lot of my sites are like, you know, city tree service. You know what I mean? Like the Richmond tree service, let's use that as an example, or Fairfax tree service. I would always do that because it just made sense at the time, but I wouldn't do that anymore because, first of all, your domain is an exact match domain if you're using an exact match domain. I don't recommend using exact match domains anymore at all. You can use a partial match, but typically it's better to use a branded, something that could be considered a brand. Make a fake brand if that's what you got to do. Don't use exact match domains. Number two, also using those kind of names where it's like city tree service or whatever, or city plumbers or whatever. A lot of the times that's going to look spammy. And if you're building brand links, right, brand anchors back to your site with, and your site name or your brand name is a keyword with, you know, an exact match keyword, you're going to trip the Penguin filter. All right, so don't do that anymore. So first thing you're going to do, though, is if you've got a website, whether it's local or whether it's lead gen or whether it's a, you know, a blog or something where affiliate product, CPAs, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're going to want to give it a brand name, something that can be branded, right? And then from there, you're going to build your IFTTT network using that brand name for all of the tier 1 IFTTT properties. So your WordPress.com. Let's make up a. Scott, if you're on, do you have anything in particular? Where I lost my window. Let's see, Scott. Let me see if I can get Scott. Do you mind sharing the brand name? I'd like to use a real example if possible. If he replies, can you just jump in? I'm going to call this something like, let's call this, let's say, instead of Fairfax tree service, I'm going to say, this is what I'm going to say, Fairfax tree men, something like that. Whoops. For tree pros, I use that a lot. I got to be honest with you guys. I do a lot. I'm still building lead gen stuff, and I do like I'll do whatever the service is, pros, or you know, something like that. That's anything like that. That even right there is a little bit probably too targeted, but it's not bad because, you know, tree men isn't something that you'd optimize for. So it's not the same as an exact match. See, that's what I would consider a partial match, right? Because right there's the partial match. Does that make sense? So anyways, if this were the brand, okay, then what I would do is I would create an IFTTT network using all the terms in the username, such as this. It would be Fairfax treemen.wordpress.com, right? Same thing would be Fairfax treemen.blogspot.com. You guys get the idea, okay? That's what I would do. Now, that's what you consider a branded network. All right, and you're going to set everything up the way that you've been taught, Google Plus page, everything. You're going to tie all the accounts together. That's number one. Then the first thing that you're going to want to do is syndicate a couple blog posts. So go out, target some long tail keywords, and we're going to talk about keyword strategy here in just a minute. But you're going to target long tail keywords with commercial intent. Now, what do I mean by that? All right.